are back here at the Hearthstone Global Games, and we've switched it up just a little bit. I've sent Falk for a nap. Poor little thing was getting a bit tired. I've got Derek in as well, so I think this may or may not be the first time we've cast together. I don't know anymore. I've been hearing conflicting things. I'm sure we have.
I think we did once. It was like an online cast where we were both a bit dead, so we don't really remember.
Yeah, so we've not really been actually sat in the same vicinity as each other, but we'll get this one cracking. It'll be fun either way. Let's check out the bracket of the match we're going to be going into. This is... Okay, so we've got... I just looked at the top for Group D, and it wasn't there, and I looked down, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay, it's Group D, and it is going to be the winners match, Norway versus China. A pretty, I would say, high-class Hearthstone match in terms of popularity and power level.
Yeah, it really does not get much better than this, and while we have seen some of the bigger teams making questionable lines, maybe not playing in the expected way, Norway have just been playing extremely solid Hearthstone. They just outplayed the hell out of Ukraine in the previous series, which is why, even though they were very unfavored going into that series, they still managed to take a victory, and they've got themselves in a situation when we'll be taking a little bit of a look at the bans in a minute, where they're actually not in a bad spot in this series. If they're playing well, I think they're in a very good shot of getting through to BlizzCon.
Yeah, let's take a look at who those teams are and who they consist of, because I think, you know, going on from what you said, the thing that strikes me the most about Norway is they are non-stop competitive players. Yeah. You look at, Kalento, fantastic player, streams a lot at home, don't really travel to many tournaments. These guys don't stop traveling to tournaments. It's insane. They're probably, well, I know Huntrace isn't at home right now. He's actually in China, which worries me.
That's right, yeah.
Which worries me. They sent someone to take him out, so the team's weaker. He's only around the corner by the sounds of it. So
I mean, we've seen more precarious situations games being played in. Terrence M was literally playing in Universal Studios in one of the weeks, just like on the roller coaster jamming out some aggro mage.
I mean, it got the job done for USA.
It did indeed.
So you can't argue. But yeah, it's pretty impressive all around. China, what's going to be quite interesting, at least going forward, are fielding a quite new team to championships. I know you were there for playoffs for week 1. But they're going to be sending some new players to championships, but the team is pretty well known by now, I think, the Chinese players.
Yes, I believe Trunks is the one player out of the HGG roster who is making it through to the full championships, and he's been around for a while. I've cast him a few times. To be perfectly honest, with mixed results. I've seen him play very well. I've seen him play pretty poorly at times. But when he is on point, he does play a very creative style, as do a lot of his teammates. The Chinese team, they do not take meta decks at face value. They're very creative with their styles.
Yeah, have the complete own opinions on what they think's good and what they think's going to work. And let's check out what the lineups look like and what the bans look like so far. So we see, is it going to be Ro? Oh.
Something a little bit different
here. Rogue. Okay, so it's Warlock and Druid bans and then double Rogue first pick. Tell me about the way this lines up, Darren.
So this is a little bit different from the first couple of series we've seen today, because Norway were saying in all their interviews they have a free ban because China don't have Quest Rogue. They've got the odd Rogue. This is the big difference here, is pretty much every other team we've seen so far has the Quest Rogue. So Norway don't have to ban it. They are getting rid of the Warlock instead, which is the Zoo, one of the more aggressive decks, most of Norway's decks will be struggling against, like the Quest Rogue, not a good matchup, Druid, Death Rattle Hunter, all pretty miserable matchups. So getting rid of the aggro board-centric deck, should set the tone for this. Norway, a little bit more control-y, anti-control, whereas for China, a bit more aggressive.
Right, and let's see how the actual lineup of the matchup goes. See who is playing what and where they are playing. It's going to be Lou versus NTR, Shaman versus Hunter, kicking it off. And then what was the, like you said, you think Norway's on the better end of the stick for this. Why? Tell me about the matchups.
Yeah, so I was talking a little bit to Zorkthar before the match, and he feels he's in a reasonable spot. I was taken aback at first because China's Priest, I completely misread what it was because I saw Topsy-Turvy in it, and I was like, oh, Topsy Priest, Ball Priest, the OTK version. That is not the case. This is a Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, OTK Priest, like the olden ones we saw just before the Witchwood came out, where it was very popular with the Draconid Operative and all that. This one, however, is straight up Stormwind Knight, and then you double buff it and smack it through to face up against the Odd Warrior, which I would have anticipated be a pretty bad matchup for any control deck. Zorkthar thinks on the Odd Warrior, though, he's in a good spot because they just can't deal enough damage in one turn.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just get more armor than you can. It's not like Topsy-Turvy Priest where you get like hundreds of damage. You get like, what, like 40 or something max?
40 is the max.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go into game number 1, though. It is going to be the Shaman and the Hunter. What do you think of this matchup, Derek? Because I personally favor the Hunter, but I am always slightly biased when it comes to stuff like this.
Yeah, I'm not quite in the Raven school of thought where it is the greatest Hearthstone deck to ever exist ever.
Oh, did you listen to that?
Yeah, I did listen to that.
Hey, that was... did you hear why? I got beat like 8 times straight on ladder by this deck.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that doesn't really say much, no offense, mate. But maybe if Norway lose to it.
Show match, Raven versus Derek coming up. If you can stay connected for a game.
Ooh, savage. However, in this series of China up against Norway, I would definitely put NTR pretty far ahead. While China do have access to some decent tools to fight back against the Death Rattles, obviously in the form of Hex primarily, and the double Earth Shock that they have in their deck as well. Generally, I find the threats are too consistent for Death Rattle Hunter. They close out the game too quickly, and as soon as Katharina comes down with a King Crush or a High Main, it's just lights out.
Yeah. One thing that I've never heard anyone ever really agree with me on, I think Kalento did, which I'll take it. If I'm going to get one person, I'll take it, is that in this matchup, cubing and duplicating Grizzlies is insane.
Yeah.
Because they're immortal.
They have nothing.
Yeah, they one volcano barely kills a Grizzly, never mind 2. And I've suggested this a few times to people. It's like, actually, sometimes I play the matchup to just make like 4 Grizzlies and then kill them. Because, yeah, they only attack for 3 or 4, depending on kill set or whatever. But it gets it done because they just never die. And you can normally get done pretty quick. But we'll see how it plays out anyway. It's not normally the core strategy. You do just want to kill them with 5/5s early on if possible. Yeah, it's always something to consider, I feel.
Absolutely. I think at the global games we've seen very consistently against the control matchups, Death Rattle Hunter being played too quickly, not greedily enough.
Right.
Because you quickly realize if you're playing cube on anything other than a 5/5, how absolutely absurd your game plan becomes. If you're doing it on Houndmaster Shaw, the High Mains, Katharina, King Crush, Witchwood Grizzlies, anything. You just very quickly snowball yourself to a board position you can't lose.
And look at the power level of the next turn as well. We see the coin into the Houndmaster, and then there's the option of Devil Sort, play dead, and then you can rush with the 5/5 in to clear the taunt and push 3 to face.
I like the sound of that.
Seems good.
Yeah.
And there's still, what I like about it, there's still backup options. There's tracking. There's just Terror Scale if you ever want a 3/3 to rush for some reason. You probably don't, but maybe you do.
It's worth considering.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the strength of the deck, is that Play Dead traditionally was kind of seen as a dead card too often. It would just be stranded in your hand. But now with how many Death Rattles there are in the deck, plus tracking, the flexibility is just through the roof.
Look at this now, the 5/5 from the Devil Sword can take down the Chain Gang number 2, along with Houndmaster. So this is looking pretty strong for me. I don't see much reason to diverge from the obvious path.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking was mind control tech, but Norway aren't even running it in the deck, I believe. So even if that was a concern, they don't have it.
It's becoming more common now in the Hunter list.
More and more.
Yeah, it's a nice defensive tool.
I've seen more and more calls on Twitter for it to be moved to the next card for the Hall of Fame.
MCT?
MCT, because at the moment, with Giggling Inventor being so prominent, it is kind of the third less obvious tech card against Giggling, with Blood Knight and Mossy being numbers 1 and 2. If you can throw down a mind control tech, it's very difficult to fight back against that when you have Giggling.
Right. I think as well now, it's going to sound really weird when we're looking at this Shaman deck, and we've just seen Odd Warrior a million times, but I feel like the game is so board focused now. Right at this moment, this meta is just like so heavily board focused, even with things like Spreading Plague.
Yeah.
You know, the mind control tech, you never harshly punish for putting in your deck, right? You can always find a target for it.
And that's kind of the effect I find of, number 1, Ice Block leaving the game. One of the least board interactive decks ever in any kind of burn mage, control mage. And also a lot of good aggro tools leaving it. You can't just go face from turn 1 anymore. Because the aggro tools aren't there. You have to fight for board, which clearly is what both of these players are doing here. Volcano coming down just to deal with a pretty measly board and overloading China because the threat was just getting too large.
Yeah, this is where you might just about get away with slamming a Grizzly on the board now. Because although it's not optimal, it's just a 3/6, it's probably not going to die because they've only got, what, 4 mana next turn?
Yeah. What could they do? Hex it, at which point you go, great, you've just hexed my like 3/5 or something. Yeah, brilliant.
And he's still pushing 5?
Yeah.
Only because I feel like tracking into anything, you don't do anything else.
What are you actually looking for? Shore has already been found. Chain Gang, I guess, is the best option.
Yeah, you're probably looking for a cube for next turn, in which you may as well track in next turn and play the Grizzly now.
Yeah.
I like it. And also, again, it's just 11 health on board. Like, seems good.
All Norway need to do here is, well, I suppose I should say #1 priority is don't lose board. That's really what they need to focus on, because that's when things get messy if they have to use their...
#1 priority, don't lose.
Don't lose. Okay,
#2
that's
priority,
#1.
win.
Yeah.
Hearthstone steps with Derek, I love it.
Yeah, go on. I'm starting to get it why Sottle was sick, quotation marks, this week.
Yeah, to give you the best opportunity of your life, casting with me.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chain Gang is drawn. Is there any particular reason not to go wider? Or would you just start off with the tracking anyway?
Well, main reason would be mind control techs, which, well, actually looking at China's deck lists, they're not in there either. This is an MCT-less game, which is not something you see all too often anymore in Hearthstone, apart from in the most aggressive matchups.
I do love this, though. What else are your hunters marking in this Shaman deck? Nothing. Kill it, move on with your life, punch them for 8, keep going.
Why leave yourself vulnerable to Lightning Storm, I think is the main thing.
Yeah.
I like it, because if they play Grumble next turn, you just smack them in the face for 12.
Right, exactly, you just kill them.
Yeah.
No, Team China are a bit like, ooh. You know, nothing feels good right now.
Yeah.
There's Electra Lightning Storm.
It's not
But you so heavily overloaded the
You go down to 4 next turn, which is Chain Gang. You kind of, I think, want to set up for Electra Volcano, though. Or Hagatha next turn, but how do you set up for a Hagatha next turn without overloading?
My worry with Electra Volcano setup is a cube just nails you. You're like 1 cube, and you're like, oh, well, this now sucks. You know, whereas Lightning Storm means, what, they're going to make a minion and cube it next turn? Yeah. Probably not.
I think I like this, actually. Okay. I was looking at this line of play of using your minions here to soften up the board, and then next turn, you try and play Hagatha to wipe the board. You just pray that somehow, in the best case scenario, Norway don't have an ability to make the trades favorable for them. And worst case scenario, you can still go Electro Volcano if things go horribly wrong. Spider Bomb is, I mean, if you wanted to, it's a way to clear off a couple of minions from the board this turn, or 1 at least with the Terror Scale or Play Dead. Grizzly is a nice protection against Volcano, I suppose.
Or do you just egg? Get Terror Scale on as well.
It's a lot of health. This is a tough choice, because you really just want to make sure, in this situation where you are pretty decidedly ahead as Norway, how do you solidify that victory? What do you lose to at the moment? The answer of which is pretty much Electra Volcano.
Plus like 2 withdrawals or something.
Right. And how do you bolster yourself against that? The answer of which is a sticky Death Rattle.
And you still put pressure on with a 5-5 and a 3-3 if he wants to play Terror Scale. Could even play Dead, and yeah, I was going to say you could just do this as well and just get the weapon live.
So this means there's still, what, 9, 10, there's so much health on the board. 1 Volcano doesn't even come close to clearing this off. So it would have to be Lightning Storm Volcano or Electra Volcano.
Glacial Shard is one of the minions that can cause issues for Hunter, because you normally only have 1 to 2 powerful attacking minions, but this board is pretty resilient to that.
Hagatha completely off the table now, as it would simply, I believe, deliver lethal on the following turn with the hero power for NTR.
Also, can't even kill off a 5-5 with it. Yeah. You know, like if they weren't taunts, you could at least take 1 5-5 down.
You could only take out the Grizzly. So that means hope to high roll on the egg with a Lightning Storm and then Volcano, or just Electro Volcano, I suppose. Would that even work? That would be 6, 9, 10, 15, 18. It would have no guarantee of killing the egg necessarily.
Lightning can strike twice.
Okay.
See how this shakes out, wanting to kill as many 5-5s as they possibly can. But that was 2 low rolls on the 5-5s first time, so they have to hit 3 to kill them off.
Okay.
And that is 1.
Wasn't bad.
Not bad.
No, yeah,
could have been worse.
Ooh, and ooh,
wow.
I did nearly fall off my chair. There's one of the the withdrawals I was talking about, which is a way you
Yeah.
can lose here from NTR's position because, yeah, he had a great power push. Yes, his opponent's on 12. That's one healing rain away from just being absolutely fine.
And thinking back to the decisions that could have been made last turn with the tracking, Witchwood Grizzly, I think, would have led to the same situation. Probably worse, actually, because you wouldn't have a 5-1 on the board. I think they knew what they were losing to, which was a big board sweep, and they prepared for that as best as they could.
Right, it wasn't perfect. Like, Cube would have been insane.
Yes. And even now, when Lee is overloaded for 4 mana on the following turn, a big play onto the board here NTR is making, trying to set up for lethal. However, we can see the Volcano is there to mop things up.
Just about holding on. I will say, though, both players are kind of struggling right now because after Volcano, yeah, you've got an Acolyte, yeah, you've got Hagatha. None of those things in isolation really do anything either.
It is just one good draw for Norway needed to win this game. Just one.
Also, wait, is this not just a loss anyway? Volcano, 2 overloaded to play. Oh no, you can play Agatha. What am I talking about?
Yeah,
Goes to
yeah.
10.
That's right. Oh, that is a good draw. Oh my goodness. Can we see the crush?
There it is. Wow, exactly what Norway needed to finish up that game. Incredible. And it really, like, feels fast after an Odd Warrior mirror.
Yeah.
I'm not joking around with that one. But there was a few key decisions that really made the break speed of that game happen, to be honest. There was the clears that were required with the Electra. And did you Electra earlier? Did you save it for later like we saw it happen? You know, all those were pretty interesting. The tracking choices and how he split that as well was pretty cool. But I generally thought Norway played extremely solid, and China kind of just couldn't do much about that kind of highly aggressive opening, which is the reason how Master Show's in the deck. You create situations like that.
It is just a miserable matchup right from the get-go, and like it was very subtle choices by Norway that led to a victory, but it was stuff like using the Hunter's Mark, I think was a good spot.
That was really good,
The Saronite Chain Gang was a really nice play. Choosing the Egg wasn't obvious as well, because I mean a 5-drop in the Grizzly looks better, but I think they gave themselves the best chance of having a minion survive on board against a board clear, and it worked out.
Pushed the damage through, and it ended up in King Crush taking it, which is always awesome. But let's check up the next matchup and see what we are looking at for the rest of the series. So I see a Priest and I see a Warrior, and I believe you did tell me this was the Inner Fire Priest versus the Odd Warrior.
Yeah, this is a matchup that I have played no times personally, because this kind of priest,
good sample size,
is just not popular at all. I've never seen this on ladder. Or at least not since the combo priest was an actual deck.
Okay.
Because this isn't even Inner Fire Priest. This is just Topsy Priest. It's not trying to make big minions. Like, it can't go Twilight Drake, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire to just have a big minion that sticks around. Please take a look.
You're just getting me more interested.
It's just basically trying to go for Stormwind Knight, and then you go for triple Divine Spirit, and then Topsy for 40 damage, is the combo. Obviously, you can still win through the Bone Drakes in the deck, the Twilight Drakes, the Primordial Drakes. It's still just...
It has cards
It's
in
a control priest. It's just a dragon control priest at its core, but with a different win condition than the regular control priest, because it doesn't have Mind Blast, it has Topsies and Divine Spirits. It's probably a better matchup against the Odd Warrior than the Mind Blast version is, because that is a truly awful matchup.
Right.
This one, you know, you could stick a Twilight Drake, buff it up 3 times, and then deliver a surprise lethal. Who knows?
Well, we'll find out. I have no clue either. This seems like... What is this targeting, is my question. What are you beating with this deck?
I think it's druids a lot. Like, any kind of combo priest traditionally has been fantastic against all druids. That was more so before Naturalize was being run in the majority of druids, especially as Inner Fire isn't even in the deck, which is another thing that makes it worse against druids.
I see a card like Bone Drake in the deck. I'm like, I could just be Inner Fire, you know?
But it still does have the core anti-aggro package, which is very strong. We see Duskbreakers, we see Pyromancers, Clerics, Power Word Shield, all the anti-aggro cards. And I think that's mainly what China's thinking is here, is we have Control Priest as its core, which is very good against aggro decks, and then a different win condition which works better against Druids and Warriors, because Mind Blast Priest is terrible against Druid and Warrior.
Right. No, there's logic to it. I'm very interested, actually, just to see how this deck plays out.
Same.
A little bit, I would say, unfortunate that it's going up against Odd Warrior,
Yeah.
where it's just very linear what the Odd Warrior needs to do. Gain more health than can be killed by.
Yeah.
You know, and with shield slams, reckless flurries, dynamatics, this seems like Odd Warrior has the tools to deal with a lot of these minions, a lot of these threats before they even become threats. But I'm always excited to see decks I've not seen much and see how they perform, especially when we know the Chinese players, they're not some random guys off the street.
Oh,
you know,
no, absolutely
they are
not.
good players, so there's at minimum a logical idea
Yeah.
in here, which you described quite well.
Yeah, Lee was, I believe, the #1 Chinese points earner 2 years in a row, maybe just 1 year, because he was referred to as the Muzzy of China, I think was the name he was given over in the Western world, just to contextualize how much Hearthstone he plays, how good he is at it. Despite his pretty miserable performance at the Summer Championships, he still has a bright future ahead of him, I'm sure.
Do you know who the 3 Emperors are?
Please tell me.
Do you actually know?
Oh, right. I thought this was like three players who have picked up.
It's a Chinese Hearthstone thing.
Oh, I have heard about this, actually. Yeah. Who are they? I've forgotten.
Kalento?
Yeah.
I believe this is true. I'm
Yeah.
sorry if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure. Kalento, Pavel, and Jason Zhou,
Oh,
I
right,
believe, because of their overall performances. I mean, Kalento's loved in China.
Oh, yeah. K-God.
Yeah, exactly. I used his official title of Emperor Kalento, but his friends can call him K-God, I've heard. But yeah, due to the just overall performances, and Pavel again, another hit in China. But anyway, just a kind of extra information for you. I know, again, you hang out with Gaskin mostly, he brings these crazy facts. I bring relevant facts, Derek. There's at least one
Quite
on
refreshing.
there. Yeah.
I like as well that you dropped in. It's like his friends can call him K-God. They're allowed to call him
Yeah.
God, his best
A
friend.
lot of them still just say Emperor, but, because they're worried. But
So getting off to the start of this game, we can see what looks like a pretty decent hand for China. They've got the draw, they're getting going with the Shadow Visions. Clearly, I was imagine they only want to find Divine Spirits, which is why they go for a redo on the first one. But even just getting a Twilight Drake down right at the start could get an early surprise lethal. Who knows?
It's something. We can see Ambi Cal's going to get a job done, but there's nothing to clear it with.
Yeah, that's fair.
It
However,
does
a 4-1
nullify.
is fine.
It does nullify the crazy threat, but
Yeah. I think it's the high health that you're worried of because he can buff it up and kill you.
Right.
4 attack a turn, you don't care.
no Lyra in here as well, so
Yeah.
there's no chance of anything truly funky going down in terms of, oh well, now I have an inner fire, sort of thing.
It's a surprisingly linear deck. Most combo priests or the Xerix cloning gallery priest is just a complete clown fiesta. Like, you never know what's going to happen in that deck. This one, though, you're just playing minions, buffing them up, and trying to go for a surprise lethal. And I think I should point out now, when I was talking to Zorkthar about it, everything Zorkthar says you have to take it with a little pinch of salt because he's a very cocky player. He will always big up how favored he thinks he actually is, how good his teammates actually are. So I think while he said this matchup was, quote, a free win, he was memeing a little bit.
Right.
He knows it's not quite that good of a matchup because already 20 damage next turn.
It's so much to worry about, isn't it?
It's probably not going to happen because Ulove definitely wants to set up a one-turn kill. But you've got to be very scared of it.
Definitely a hard deck to take to a high-stakes tournament as well, because let's be honest, these players are playing for a spot at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
They're not messing around. This is the finals, right? And you bring in a deck that, I mean, I don't know how many games they've played of it, how many matchups they've played, because in this format, you can face anything. Any class you've not banned out, obviously. You just hit something. You don't pick this deck into an opponent's deck. So, very interesting to me to see how they navigate this, because I just don't know how. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah,
I'm like,
no. It's not.
I can't wait to find out. It's kind of weird.
It's always worth pointing out as well that the Chinese server tends to be a little bit separate from the rest of the servers.
Yes.
Who knows, maybe this is just a very popular deck on the Chinese server. As there is now 32 damage available on this turn with heal, hero power, divine shield, topsy-turvy. Up to 1632.
Divine Spirit.
Oh, Divine Spirit, sorry.
Just because I was like,
Yeah,
wait,
yeah,
what?
no.
Like, what?
I've
really not looked at this deck list. Yeah, that is...
Which is insane. That should not be happening at this point.
It's giving you, it's giving me at least food for thought
Yes.
on this deck list. I'm starting going, well, that would just kill most people. If it wasn't Warrior
yeah, that would win the
or
game.
Druid, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
You just lose.
I think that's the closest they're going to get for a very long while, because I imagine silence and attack with the weapon, or whatever. Maybe even silence and Zola, because the owl is so valuable in this matchup. Whatever it is, I want to see this Twilight Drake dealt with on this turn.
We'll say if you owl an attack, you could quite easily Zola, of course. But if you didn't, your owl probably doesn't die, right? Like, we can see Cabal Shadow Priest, of course it gets stolen. But is Yulov gonna Pyromancer cast a spell to kill an owl? You know, the odds aren't that high. But it all depends how heavily Norway are favouring the armor gain, right?
Yeah, well, what do they do on this turn? Just hero power? I guess it's Odd Warrior. There's a reason you have the upgraded hero power. You want to spam it as much as possible.
That's what I mean. If they value getting the armor to get out of range of any potential cheeky kill, is that worth more than getting a second owl? I'll be honest, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just something to think about sometimes.
Clearly here, though, they are considering not going for the silence, maybe going for a faceless manipulator, something like that. Even though they do not know how dire of a position they were in if they didn't deal with it, I like getting rid of it. Clear the board, get another owl. I really like this as well, because this matchup never goes to fatigue, or if it does, you're winning every time, because they're going to draw a whole bunch of cards.
Triple Divine Spirit.
So that means if we see a Stormwind Knight coming down before, on turn 9, and the Warrior isn't up to 40 health, that's a lethal. I don't anticipate that will happen, but it's not outside the realms of possibility.
This also has 5 health.
That's true. If this sticks around,
this just doesn't die.
These are just big threats that have to be dealt with. We could see attack into the 4/5 and then owl to finish things off with hero power, or even just dynamatic. Dynamatic deals with this perfectly. Yeah.
But that's the threat, right? You suddenly
everything has to be killed.
It's like, oh, Twilight Drake, that's a bit of a problem. Oh, Cabal Shadow Priest, I might just be dead from 40. You know, excuse me, it's a bit of a worry, isn't it? And one thing I'll say, I think China might have messed up on is their Shadow Visions. They snap picked, and then
a fair point.
Team Norway or Colbine at least started laughing.
Yeah.
So
they know
there's only one card they're snap picking. You know what I mean? So maybe they could have just give it 10 seconds, and that's a small thing, because you're always going to play around. If a Shadow Vision's been played, you have to play around it. But the fact that it was snap picked, I feel just mentally ingrains it into your mind.
It's obviously the right choice to go for Divine Spirit, but I agree, maybe just trying to go for the bluff factor a little bit. As in the end, they do opt to go for the old swing with the weapon, because they want to get at least down on this turn. It does represent a bigger minion, and I think that what Coldmine is thinking is they might actually just not play 2 minions together on the same turn for ages, for like the rest of the game potentially.
I could already improve this deck list.
Please do.
The new legendary. If you cast a spell on it, it comes back. The 5/5.
Oh, right. Oh, well, what, Xeric? Just Xeric itself?
Yeah. Think about it. You just give a divine... oh God, I'm saying divine shield now. Powered shield on it. But if they kill it, it comes back.
Maybe.
Go again.
Try it out. Report back with your findings.
Nah, someone else can do it. I don't mind. I'll be there with my Death Rattle Hunter.
Well, do you know what I'm thinking? 4-axe. The 4-mana 3/3. You just get a little 1/1 with the powered shield thrown on it as well. Gorgeous.
And then do what?
Laugh.
1/3.
You just laugh.
You're like, haha, got you.
But this is kind of giving me flashbacks to the meta just before the Witchwood rotated around of Cobalt and Catacombs, where I was playing an awful lot of combo priest with the Netherspire Historians, Draconid Operatives and all that.
Right.
And you got into a lot of situations against control decks where you said, okay, if I stick 1 minion this game, I win. Just for a single turn, I win the game. That was surprisingly difficult to do. just to stick one minion on the board against any kind of control decks, be it control mage, control warrior, control warlock, control priest, whatever, that was not an easy feat to accomplish. And I think that's a situation that Kolbeinn may have found himself in, where he seized board control quite easily, and he should be able to just kill off everything that YouLove plays until the game's over.
Yeah, Zarek.
Because China's hand, in terms of actual traditional what you're trying to do in Hearthstone, is awful.
Right.
This is such a bad hand, but it could potentially just deal 40 damage in one turn to close out the game.
There are some beefy cards.
Yeah.
Right? So, I'm looking at Norway's list. I might have just lied.
Well,
there are some beefy cards.
Primordial.
Primordial Drake is something you have to consider. Even Bone Drake is reasonable. So there's still some beef that we've not seen later in the deck. And it's halfway through right now, but yeah, I will say that the longer it takes to start chaining these threats, the easier it is for Team Norway to actually chain kill them as well. Whereas you really want to go threat, kill, kill, and say, you've got to do this every turn because I can.
Lovely pick up there for Norway on the Beryllium Nullifier. We could have seen it come down on this turn. I guess that would be a little bit of an overcommittal into Psychic Scream that you don't want to give to your opponent. But at some point, that's just a nice way to maybe magnetize onto another minion for a surprise kill on one of their big minions.
I imagine there's a slight... Oh, maybe not. Doesn't matter. Scratch my point.
Consider it scratched.
There's the Twilight Acolytes that can steal, but you can't buff the Beryllium anyway. If the priest stole it, you can't buff it, so it doesn't matter.
I thought you meant the battle cry can't target it, and I was
no,
not quite.
Yeah,
That's
you can steal it.
Than I thought.
Which I'll take. Yeah, I wasn't as stupid as you presumed I was being. Close though. But yeah, it was just that you can steal that high health minion as a natural thought path, but it's untargetable, so you can't actually cast any of these spells on it.
Acolyte of Pain, however, is just the pickup for YouLove. They could not find anything better in their deck, because we can see Pyromancer, Acolyte, Power Shield, Coin. I struggle to think of them doing anything else on this turn. Maybe Psychic Scream because you want to clear the board, but I don't like that. I just want to get drawing with this Acolyte and Pyromancer right now.
Are they ever...
Wow.
Did they ever need the...
No way.
Wait, I need to just keep staring at this deck list, honestly.
Oh, that seems so good to get Pyromancer, Acolyte on this turn. Because you can just kill off the Elise as well. Draw 2-3 cards while you're at it.
Yeah, and also, it sounds really silly, but Acolyte's 3 health, it could kill your opponent.
Maybe.
You know, if they don't clear it, like you can, even if it does 30 or 30 something, you know, it's close. And also with Powered Shield, it becomes 5.
Yeah.
Which is the number you want. So, yeah, I liked it.
I liked it too. The clock is absolutely on China here. If they don't kill Norway in the next few turns, they're above the 40 health range. The game's just pretty much over. Unless they can stick a giant Twilight Drake or Primordial Drake.
And once they get to 40, Norway are never going to play that Owl.
Yeah.
Because you can argue, well, they can't Reckless Flurry or Shield Slam if I hit them, because they've got no armor.
Yeah.
Like, right, Owl.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah, that's fair. They'll probably be able to do it with something like Dynamatic or whatever, but it's fair. They might hold on to it.
Yeah, depending on the minion.
As well, they have already surpassed the 40 health point at 41 now. They do not die to the combo. Oh no, sorry. They do die. New number we need to make.
Yep.
Coin-powered shield.
Okay.
Which is getting it up to 7, which is 7, 14, 28, 52.
What now?
Right.
Oh, 28, 56.
Extra caveat, they do die if this minion lives.
They do also
Just to note as well, that minions with 8 health, obviously that's more, and that can cross 40. But when we talk about 40, we talk about 40 from hand.
Right.
Is the important part, right? Obviously, for minion sticks, you can push more. But 40 from hand is the base combo that you can do.
Well, no, now 56 is the base from hand with,
with
Stormwind Knight, Coin, Shield. Which is why they're saving the Coin and the Shield. I get their play now of wanting to hold back with the Acolyte and Pyromancer. I'm not sure I agree with it, because they still have... sorry, they still have the Stormwind Knight in their deck. They don't know if the combo is going to be active anytime soon. So I think drawing was still better. But 56 damage is available from hand now.
Learning Word Priest with Derek and Raven.
I'm having to do all kind of maths on the fly here, which I'm not very good at. any more divine... Oh, no, sorry. Both divine spirits. All the divine spirits have been found. But I was going to say, even if they could find another one, unless it was on a stuck minion, it wouldn't make much difference. On a minion already on board, sorry. With the Stormwind Knight, they only have the mana for 3.
They do?
Must
Wait, there is a Master Spell in the deck though, right?
Yeah.
So they could fish for Master Spell.
Yeah, they wouldn't have lethal on this turn, though.
No, but I'm just saying that they can dodge taunts sometimes if they need to. I'm gonna start... Oh, there's not. They've used one. Okay.
Oh, right, they've already used it.
Yeah, I didn't realize they'd used it, but him, pretty nice though. Especially with this hand.
Yeah.
And this board.
This makes sense here for you, Love. Their game plan is clearly set out now. I was not realizing the potential of saving coin-powered shield with the Stormwind Knight. They realized that potential. That's why they saved it. Makes sense.
Quickly.
Think about it now as well. Are they only running one Topsy?
One Topsy.
There is no wiggle room in this deck, is there?
Very
you do
tight
one
deck
thing and you do that one thing a lot. That's it.
So now, obviously, Norway going to be wanting to clear the board whilst also preserving their own taunt, if possible, because any single taunt they have in play just nullifies the combo. It does not work until that is cleared off.
This is really funny, actually, because, like, oh, Reckless Flurry, easy clear. But then you're going to start stacking armor again.
I think we might see double attacking with both your minions, Dynamatic Direhorn, because that clears the board, sets up a taunt, it draws 2 cards for your opponent, which is fine actually because they're at 9 cards already, so they'll just burn 1.
2 on the
Or
draw.
burn 2 actually, yeah.
I like it. I'm trying to stare at something else, and it sucks. Yeah, it's not that good.
Like, oh no, sorry, they played the Faceless, so Direhorn Faceless isn't a possibility. I think just anything that clears off this board is just what you want to be doing.
Well, you normally want to deal with the 1 minion they play a turn. You don't want them to have 3. 3 is way too many.
Even thinking of going hero power there, I definitely like playing the Direhorn Hatchling here. Can we see a Stormwind Knight being burned off the top?
Anduin, okay.
It's not that. Anduin is burned though. Probably not that important. Like, obviously, in Control Priest with Mind Blast, if that's burned, you concede.
I think it's important based on where this Knight is. If the Knight's the bottom card, you'll have needed the Anduin to keep the armor as low as possible.
That's a good point.
Because 5 more turns, which is only 5 draws out of the 7, potentially, well, you pass 50 odds and then you're safe again, you know, and then the game never wins in for the Priest. So I think it's important to keep the armor down, but as we've said, I'm kind of just piecing this deck together as we go.
So what is it now? 45 health for Norway. So they are 12 health away from the break point of getting up to 57. But for the moment, at least, they're safe. They got the taunt in the way, which has to be dealt with.
Scream. I wondered if Scream into Acolytes were. Get a minion on the board.
On the board.
Stick it. Go.
That would do 6, 12, 24, 48 damage. Which would not be lethal next turn, even with the powered shield and triple buff with Divine Spirit. It's very cerebral, this match. It's just a lot of checkpoints that you have to be making sure you're not misstepping. Because, again, on either side, one mistake and the game's over.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, isn't it? It's almost too straightforward.
Yeah.
It's, now can you hit this number? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you need to hit this number. Can you do it? No. Right. But getting to that point is hard. It's just the actual rules are straightforward. It's chess.
So shield block will get them up to 50 on this turn. Stonehill is a very juicy pickup indeed.
And they can still armor up to go past 50, 54.
Yeah.
Sunwalker,
We like the Divine Shield very much.
Now you can say Divine Shield. There's Divine Spirits and Divine Shield.
What I always say is Divine Favor as well. That's the,
really?
the third one. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Garrett being an idiot.
I was going to say the Triforce, but you know, whichever one works.
Still no ability to get lethal because there's no Stormwind Knight and there's too many taunts for this Bone Drake to be doing much of anything.
Yeah, Master Spell gone as well.
Maybe we just have to see a Scream.
I think, I said it last turn, I'll say it again, Scream Acolyte.
Yeah. They have played the one copy of Cabal's Shadow Priest, so Acolyte Shadow Priest is not a play anymore, I believe.
They have two,
Yeah,
don't they?
just one.
They were in one? Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
just the one. It's interesting. I would anticipate in this deck that the Bone Drake would be a Cabal Shadow Priest. I think that would usually be a stronger card, but clearly they think the dragon count is a little bit low.
Yeah, and I guess we are looking at this through the lens of versus Odd Warrior and not the 50 other aggro decks you could face, right? Where you really need those Dust Breakers to go off.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Yeah, I think if there's any chance here for it to be a victory, it's got to be...
Now? Last turn? The turn before?
Psychic Scream into Cabal. Into the Acolyte.
Yeah.
Oh, they're playing the Power Word Shield. That maybe doesn't seem important, but it is huge. However, it hits the dragon that they need to activate the Dust Breaker.
So now what you've got to... Now, it's not only the total plus the combo minus the powered shield,
Yeah.
it's plus the potential 9 damage.
Just on board.
Yeah.
So they are at 54 now is Cold Mine. So armoring up and tanking the damage is not an option. Oh no, sorry, it is an option now because the powered shield has gone. So it's only 40 damage now.
But they take 9 at the moment without clearing.
Yes. Oh no, sorry. So what they would do is they do it on the Bone Drake anyway. So if the Bone Drake survives, they heal it up to 7.
Right, which is the number you want.
And that's the 56. Right, okay. We're getting there, we're getting there.
Eternium Rover, not bad.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, they
With
went
a
for
little bit of
Tarlord
extra
and not
armor.
the Sun Cheeser, whatever it's called.
Sun Cheeser. Yeah, I was expecting the Sunwalker as well, I have to be honest, but this is going to do a better job here because it tanks them both and survives. There is the Stormwind Knight, but they can't get through. They can't get through the Tarlord on this turn.
No.
They can't really afford to Psychic Scream here because at that point...
They can Twilight Acolyte.
Mm.
No. Oh, okay. I'm wondering if you can force a brawl. Because what the problem now is you want your knight on the board on its own.
Yeah.
So it can't be brawled.
Do they still have a powered shield in the deck as well?
No.
They don't.
When they Shadow Visions, it was only the him.
Him, that's right.
Yeah, it was just him.
Okay, yeah, good point. So now, if everything is cleared off the board, the max damage combo goes back to 40, I think.
Quickly.
What a game.
So now they play Onyxia. Brawl comes down, Onyxia wins, and the damage goes up.
It's like, it's not going to happen, but
It's kind of
it
funny
might happen.
that this deck stops you, like, just
my
makes
God.
Reckless Flurry not a card.
Don't do it.
It makes Reckless Flurry not a card, right?
Yeah.
Because just as much as, well, you can Reckless Flurry. No, you can't, because
Yeah.
you're dead. You go down to 29.
No way! No way!
Yes.
They have the stone.
They have the
They're not
stone
dead.
hill.
They're not dead. They have the stone hill.
Oh my God. It's into Stonehill, go.
No, into Cornered Sentry. Like, they can just slam it down on this turn, right?
No, you'd want it for Brawl. Next turn. This 8/8 needs to die, Derek.
I guess. Are they just going to get chunked down by an 8/8 this game?
After all this mass, they just get beat by an 8/8.
No way.
But he can't Flurry. That's so crazy.
Yeah, he just can't.
Can't
'cause
do it, he's
dying.
dead.
Yeah. Unless he could set up a taunt on the same turn. Even then, you don't want to erode this armor totally built up.
Because there's many turns. Because like shield block's been used. So there's even the quick armor gains are hard to deal with.
So, Duskbreaker, Stormwind Knight, Divine Spirit. No, you can only get up to 16 that way. You can't buff up the attack on Stormwind Knight in any way because you need that for the OTK combo. So I guess you attack in and play Primordial Drake?
Oh, that's not going to work.
I'm looking at any tricks that can be pulled here, but I don't think it's
Do you
there.
ever kill it? And do you ever Acolyte the 8/8? So then you've got
It's not
one high
ridiculous,
attack minion,
to
and
break
the
through
health
a
on the Onyxia is fine because you've got the health. Like that's for a potential topsy-turvy.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But then you've got 2 minions that can be brawled.
Which the Onyxia would survive again.
I mean, that was just insane. Called it.
Whatever they're doing is going to have to be pretty quick, as in the end, the Drake does come
Going for
down.
just 2 high healthers.
Yeah,
Fine.
just trying to
I can
close
get
out the
behind
game this
that,
way.
yeah.
With 8, it would be 8, 16, 32, 64 damage, I believe they could do. Plus the 8 on board, which is then,
Wait,
what,
is there actually
72?
64 exact damage health?
How much is it right now? No, it's
62.
62. Yeah. So over lethal at this point. Something needs to be done by Colbine to stay alive. Reckless Flurry hero power loses the game. Stonehill. Oh, sorry, Stonehill into the taunt gained by Stonehill would keep him alive.
Dinomancy definitely wouldn't do much.
That's not the play. Gonna nip that one in the bud.
Just throwing it out there.
We could see Ooze Brawl, but if you lose, either of these minions close out the game on the spot. So that's just a 66% to lose on the spot.
Well, no, you'd,
Oh no, you Stonehill.
you'd
could
survive because you armor up, right? So you go to 60.
You go to 64, which is lethal.
No, you're at 62 now, so you go to 66.
Oh, 66. So you would survive
By
at
2.
2 health.
Easy.
No, but then they just play the stone. They play the Stormwind Knight for the 2
Lethal.
remaining damage. That's lethal.
Oh, that was the. Oh, okay. They needed that brawl. That brawl was the recovery brawl from that dreadful Onyxia one.
I think they weren't necessarily dead because they could have just played Stonehill, which would have protected them for one more turn.
Right,
but this was still huge. This
Yeah,
was very important for them.
These are the big threats that you should need to deal with,
Yeah.
right?
Man, the Brawl Gods giveth and they taketh away, don't they?
I was there showing off.
Yeah.
And then they're like, should have even. Look at this brawl.
And it is just staggering to me how little removal Odd Warrior has yet again. It's actually just a surprisingly removal light deck. Outside of the Super Colliders, which do most of the work here, they haven't had the shield slams they needed. The reckless
You're not allowed
flurries
to
have
play
been useless.
flurry.
Yeah.
Because now, 9 health, obviously the Owls are getting the work done right now, which is fantastic for Team Norway. But in general, what is this deck, Derek? I don't understand.
I do not know. I have to be honest here. So what are we going to see? Stonehill first. Love it. Let's see what we get. Goldshire Footman's time to shine.
I mean, it's the best choice.
Shieldbearer is probably
Shieldbearer's better because it doesn't die straight up to the Stormwind Knight.
Yeah, I agree. I like the
The
Storm.
fact we're discussing that Shieldbearer is better because it doesn't die to Stormwind Knight makes me think we're in Arena in 2014.
Yeah, this is like tutorial level.
Oh, God. First proper cast together, Derek. I feel like we shouldn't do it again. It's like, this is true madness.
Yeah. What have we unleashed upon the world? So now, with the 4 damage taking out the Stonehill, and then 3 damage going to face, there is then 40 damage to pile on top of that with the Stormwind Knight. So that's 43 damage that can go face on this turn, I believe. Because you have 5, 10, 20, 40.
And China,
Plus the
if
3.
they've been keeping track, know there's one more owl because there's been 3 this game.
Potentially, because I believe they played the one they got off Zola, so there might be another owl in hand. It could be in the deck.
Oh, sure. I mean, like,
overall.
it exists.
Yeah.
So they can't just say, Stormwind Knight for 40,
Yes.
don't kill it. You know, like, they know there's an owl available at some point.
And even if they did do that, Colbine could quite happily Hero Power Reckless Flurry, because that's every threat in the deck gone for Yulov. His deck does nothing after that. Especially because Anduin's burned, so the repetitive damage
That's true.
is gone. It does
And
not
look at the
exist.
difference it's made,
Yeah,
actually.
big time.
This
That
would have
been pretty good.
The health total would have been lower. And I'm not saying it would have been dead, but it would have been lower. And lower by any means is key right now as we're swiftly learning with this deck.
I think there would have been downsides to that, though, in that you can't heal up your minions again to deliver a higher Divine Spirit
Very
lethal.
true.
And how many cards can China actually play from their hand to reactivate the hero power? Like 7 of their cards were just unplayable as they finally throw it down. And after an immensely tense game and just a pretty nutty game as well, Goldmine takes it 2-0 up.
Yeah, 2-0 for Norway against China. And I don't know who to apologize to, whether you guys at home, if you heard that, or whoever made this desk, because I started hitting it very hard when that brawl happened. I was like, oh, not made any marks or anything. I'm not strong enough for that, so it's fine. But yeah, Norway go to 2-0, and we need a minute to recover from that game because it was truly, truly nutty. So go and grab a drink, take a quick minute, and we'll be right back with some more global games. We've just about recovered from that game of China versus Norway. Norway currently in the lead, 2-0. And we're about to go into the next game, and it is going to be the Priest versus the Druid, I believe, Derek.
Yeah, this is a little bit more of a traditional Priest, I think, with just the Mind Blasts and Shadow Reaper Anduin. And it has found itself a pretty miserable matchup. Norway are entering the much more unfavourable part of the series now, where they've got this Control Priest up against Togwaggle Druid, which is a pretty miserable matchup. You generally can't get through enough armor to kill them. So this could be the start of a comeback for China, because if they don't do it right now, we're going to see our 4th team through to BlizzCon in Norway.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty quick. I think whichever way this one goes, I think this can be said for a lot of the teams, but, you know, Norway or China, oh no, if either of them win, you know, what a shame. We've got 2 great teams that are vying for that spot. And this is the winner's match of the group, if I'm not mistaken. And that means that the loser is not knocked out. They just go into the lower bracket. And that means they have one more chance. You have to lose twice, basically, to completely get knocked out. But let's get into it. Potentially on set point for Hunter Ace and Team Norway for a spot at BlizzCon. It's going to be on the Priest versus the Druid. But it is going to be an uphill climb, but Hunter Ace is pretty good at those. Yeah,
if you had to have anyone taking an unfavorable to put you through to BlizzCon, you'd probably choose Hunter Ace to do so. Especially as this deck can be a little bit finicky, quite difficult to pilot it, especially as, for most players, it's not a deck that they will have played much. It's not particularly good on ladder at the moment because there is so much Druid, at least in my experience, knocking about, and so much Quest Rogue, which are 2 miserable matchups for this Control Priest. So on ladder, it doesn't make much sense to climb with it. However, in a tournament setting, you can get some game against the aggressive decks. And obviously in global games, you've got to bring all 9 classes. You've got to do something with the Priest.
And what do you make of Togwaggle Druid? Because I imagine it's actually a deck not a lot of viewers have played because, one, it requires you to have weird legendaries crafted, which is an odd thing in itself. But also it plays in a very un-Hearthstone-like fashion, I'll say. Are there any pitfalls that China could maybe fall into to give Norway a gap?
So many. This is such a difficult
deck. It's like Indiana Jones style of going into a tomb.
Oh, yeah. yeah. There are like giant balls rolling down everywhere. One of his teammates might betray him. I don't anticipate that will happen. But Elfendor, who is one of the biggest players of this deck, I think he might have finished, maybe he didn't finish rank 1 legend with it recently, but he's at rank 1 legend with Togwaggle Druid all the time. Plays pretty much nothing but this deck. He was saying on Twitter, he still thinks he loses like 10 to 20% of his games just by messing up, because he just doesn't know the deck well enough yet. Even though it's pretty much all he plays, one of the best players with it, he just still mistimes his Togwaggle as Alina, draws too many cards, doesn't draw enough cards. It's such an intensely complicated deck to play perfectly. I don't think anyone's got it down yet.
That's why I just stick to Hunter. I know what I'm good at, and I'll stick to it. Yeah, we'll see what happens then, because I imagine, because you need X amount of pieces of this puzzle to make it work, right? Some of those pieces fit in different places. Obviously, when you look at things like, me and Falk just cast one where Twig was used, but Aslina wasn't used. It was just the naturalize into Tog to fill the hand, and they don't get the ransom. So there's different ways you can do it. But I feel like there definitely are openings, especially when Priest can do what I think they're about to do and kind of beat them down with a Twilight Drake. You know, you're just taking damage. You don't really have game versus that.
That's the plan. You hope to, I would imagine, go for a Skulking Geist, as we see in the deck list, quick as pos. So it destroys most of their removal in the form of Naturalizes and Spellstones, obviously. Then you stick a big board with Twilight Drakes and Primordial Drakes and hope to somehow finish them off that way.
As a naturalize already, so both Nats in Omega Zero's hand. Omega Zero, a player, if you've been keeping up with competitive Hearthstone, you may be fairly familiar with by now, a regular to the Championship Tour. One of the players that isn't going from China this time, but has been for the past year and a half-ish, and definitely one of the more prolific players in China.
Interesting choice already there for China in going for double draw on the branching paths. That is something that I think we're learning more and more as Druid players, that you do as little as possible. Double draw on a branching path is like the last resort, apart from maybe when you need to draw in Token Druid, but even then you want to use it for plus attack.
Right.
Basically, you want to go armor. In most matchups, that's what you're trying to do. Like in the Druid mirror, you always go armor off of it, basically. I would probably have gone for armor off of it as well, because this hand doesn't do a lot, but it's not bad. And you really want to be hitting those armor cards as quick as possible.
It's definitely a weird thing, isn't it? Because it's, again, something I think you'll only know through a lot of experience in these matchups is, okay, you get armor because the priest can burst you down and kill you. If you draw your deck, though, you can togwaggle them before they can kill you. So, you know, I don't know when that is. You know what I mean? Like, I have no clue. But it seems that players have different approaches, as you just said about Elfundor. You know, do I draw too much? Do I not draw enough? Do I armor up too much? Do I not armor up enough? You know, all these questions are constant every single turn, and there's an early naturalize already saying, nope, you would not hit me with that.
And to do with Togwaggle Druid, one experience I would recommend everyone to experience at least once is wherever you can find him streaming, be it, it's Purple I'm talking about here, on his own stream, Zalay's stream, sometimes he's on like Ike's stream or whatever, Firebat, yeah, exactly. If you can listen to him when he's in the zone talking about Togwaggle Druid, it's insane. He's like Neo in the Matrix. Like, the things he talks about, you just wouldn't even consider. He's like, yeah, if you draw one card, you lose the game. You just don't even want to do that. If he naturalizes me into drawing my naturalize, I lose the game. Because he mills me for more cards when he plays Azalina or something.
It's something that
it's so cerebral.
There's a fair few players like this. Purple's a great example, though. They don't play Hearthstone turn by turn.
Yeah.
They play the full game, start to finish, at all time. Every turn, they're playing the full game. They're not going, okay, turn one, nothing passed. Turn two, wild growth. They're going, right, this is what I do, and this is the end point. They see the finish line already. It's crazy. It really is. It's definitely impressive. And again, in terms of listening to those streams, when you sit and listen to Zalay, Ike, Purple, Firebat talk to each other as well, that's when you really understand you know nothing about Hearthstone.
But that was the weird thing, is it was Zalay and Purple in the stream, and you know, I have nothing but respect for Zalay. I think he's one of the best players we have in Hearthstone. He looked just as stupefied as me, to be perfectly honest. He was sat there going, what on earth are you talking about,
what do you even mean?
Because it just shows, when you hear someone who really knows the deck talking about it properly, it shows how intensely clever you have to be to really understand the deck.
Right. And now these are some of those weird points, right? Like, look at Omega Zero's hand. What do you even do? You can Plague, fine.
Yeah.
But what does Plague do? It feels bad to not progress towards your plan, right?
Yeah.
Because Plague, I'm playing a defensive play versus this highly aggressive, oh wait, these minions do nothing. You know, it feels like an odd turn, but a turn has been pushed into because of lack of other options.
Yeah, really just wants to find Malfurion as quick as possible, probably the most key card in this matchup, because once you slam that down and start hero powering for armor every single turn, it becomes immensely difficult for the priest to be able to kill you at all.
See, I had a Raven thought then.
Please elucidate.
Do you just scream 6 bad minions into his deck?
It's not absurd.
I don't think it's the correct play this turn with Cabal.
Yeah.
But the whole point is they need to draw their combo, and we just said they had a pretty meager turn because there were no other better options. Give them 6 more terrible options.
I think the downside of that plan is that you are assuming that China needs to draw through the whole deck to go for the Malygos combo. China can just fatigue their opponent. They don't actually have to play Togwaggle at any point. Did I say Malygos first?
You did.
Sorry, I meant Togwaggle.
I was going to correct you, but I was going to wait till you finish.
They don't have to play their Togwaggle combo. They can just let their opponent go through to fatigue, Azalina their opponent's hand when they've run out of all their resources, and then just win because they have the better Death Knight at the end.
Okay, okay.
But at some point, if they do lose board, Norway will probably snap a Psychic Scream, because they need that board pressure to be winning this game.
Okay, and the coin still being held onto for Norway is going to be nice. Follow up with Primordial Drake or Alex Straza.
I'll have that back,
Hey.
thank you.
Yeah, this is kind of fair, but it shouldn't be. Yeah.
Playing Scarab tennis.
These follow-up turns do seem relatively weak for Huntrace at the moment. Although, take it all back actually.
Wow.
Wait, this is... Oh, that was huge.
That's pretty big. And
I was
this is
just looking at Divine's
Divine him.
and was like, Turn's not bad actually, you can draw a crap load of cards.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, Turn's not bad actually, China can draw a crap load of cards.
Oh, yes.
That is a problem.
And that is an aggressive use of Floop that you wouldn't be able to use in a Malagos version, I think, usually where maybe it's not so crucial against Priest, but generally you have to be a lot more conservative with it. In this matchup, Floop is just a good card. It's not your combo.
Very similar to the aggro matchups, right? You'd often Floop a second Tyrant to say
Very often,
a
yeah.
free 3/4 sick against an aggro deck. But yeah, same sort of style. It's one thing there are things I dislike about Floop, but I don't think it's Floop's fault. I'm not a huge, although I like Malagos Druid,
Yeah.
I feel the pain when someone just double Malagos, double swipes me, and I'm like, what? Like, this cannot be allowed. But I love the decision making of when and how to play Floop in the times where you don't just go, Malagos Floop, go. All the other options are like, oh, this is interesting. Do I Floop this?
Yeah.
Do I Floop that? Do I hold off? Does it get better? Does it get worse?
There is no matchup where you have to use it for one specific use. Like,
Right.
obviously you want it for Malagos in the control matchups, but maybe going wide on the board with the Arcane Tyrants, as you said, and then double branching paths, that's how you use it. You just win the game that way. And we do now see the trump card being used, I suppose, for Norway in just the board clear, coming down, getting rid of everything, resetting the board state to try and hopefully stick this Primordial Drake or double Dustbreaker. I don't even know. Maybe coin Alex Straza even, just to try and stick a board. Okay, here we go.
You were like, draw?
Yeah, I'm really glad they're gaining armor now. They found Malfurion. They can just slow down.
And this starts to get progressively worse now. It was already not great for Team Norway. But now we can see the double armor gain. The Malagos is, the Malfurion is +5 armor on play, and then 3 every turn if and so China desire. And this is just, it actually gets to the point where there just isn't enough damage in the deck to win. Never mind dealing with the Tog, never mind dealing with fatigue.
That's the problem.
There just isn't enough damage. This is how you used to play versus Priestess Druid before this Tog Waggle, before Big Malagos plays. It was just, I'm just going to get more armor than you can kill me with.
And this is how you win very similarly to the Control Priest against Malagos Druid as well.
Right.
Whereas the Togwaggle, you just have too much armor. Once they've played Malagos and you've naturalized it and dealt with all their stuff, it's losing fatigue.
Yep.
If you've played it
They don't have a
correctly.
backup plan.
Yes. Without any Lyra or any nonsense like that in this deck, like the Xerix Cloning Gallery Priest, it's pretty linear. You're just hoping to stick a board, get the
I
damage
hate
without
that
doing. I hate losing to that deck. I'm glad it exists because it's led to some very exciting clips being made and cool plays, and it's quite skill testing, I find, sometimes. Sometimes you just get messed over by it and you feel very salty.
Yep. I feel you on
Pretty
that one.
much.
No true surprise here, Malfurion coming down. Choice will be a little bit interesting. Going for taunts, okay.
Yeah, I like using the naturalize sooner rather than later because the longer you wait, the more likely you are to be geisted and have those spells just be destroyed with no use at all.
And it's an absolutely fine target. It's not like you're
it's the best
naturalizing a
in the deck.
cleric or something, you know, just to get rid of it. It's like, it's absolutely 4/8. It's the only thing that can potentially cause you some problems. Bye.
Outside of Alex Straza, this
Sure.
does open up the potential for Hunter Ace to clear a board, maybe through, I don't know, double Dustbreaker on this turn. Doesn't seem great, but just say to get a board state, and then just pretend that it's a decent play and Hunter Ace is a moron. Then he could just go Alex Straza face and push some damage the next turn.
Right.
If there is no answer to that, maybe it connects face once, maybe twice. This is very, very optimistic. But, you know, he needs to be optimistic here because this is a pretty miserable space.
Yep. No, Norway will just, again, you kind of went down the long shot route but they'll just be considering everything that can possibly be done. And the worst part as well is, if they had Anduin now, you can at least say, okay, more or less, Anduin on curve, we're going to pump damage as much as possible. Everything that's left in the deck is going to be damage, and you'll see every single time they can hero power, they will, and play less cards per turn just to get the maximum. But it's not even there yet, and we just saw something you just laughed at a little bit, was the Cleric into Psychic Scream to give as many bad cards to China as possible.
I mean, it's a bit of a joke, obviously, because it's quite funny to see your opponent just playing the Cleric, which is a very good card, just to give to your opponent. But it clearly sets out where Hunter Ace's head at is in this game, where obviously the more cards you give your opponent, the worse you should be in Fatigue, because you're just giving them more cards in their deck. That's terrible. Togwaggle Druid's just weird, though. It kind of breaks all the rules. However, this does mean the more cards you give to them, again, Omega Zero never has to play Togwaggle.
Right.
He just has the better deck at this point. All Togwaggle does is it gives you the better deck. If your opponent has that, you play it. If you have the better deck, you don't play it. It's quite simple.
Yeah, it's like, why would you swap to a worst hand if you were winning, right?
Yeah,
you know, it's that sort of thing, you just don't do it. And then guess what? You're still winning. You know, it doesn't change.
Yeah. However, I think the level further than that for Hunter Ace is saying, okay, I never win in Fatigue anyway, so let's make his draws worse. That's the thinking, is if he has to be able to deal with a wide board and he draws a Cleric, that's nothing. It's a dead draw. It does not do anything against my big board. Then he can maybe chip away at the armor total. So I think it's a long shot. It's unlikely to work, but diluting his draws rather than necessarily winning in Fatigue, I think is a good spot by Hunter Ace. It's probably the way to go.
Yeah, and I think give yourself some kind of edge versus zero edge, right?
Yeah,
that's the difference.
You take your shot.
Like, yeah. And Shadow Visions can still go for Mind Blasts here, as they are still in the deck.
You
know, suddenly you look at triple Mind Blast. There's Anduin still in there as well. I think there's only those 3 spells left, isn't there?
There is no Holy Fire, so yes, I think you are right. Which, I mean, Holy Fire, you just want all damage to face you can get in this matchup. I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm sure someone has experimented with this greatly and can have a good shout at me. Would Benedictus actually improve this matchup? Because if you play it and fill up your deck massively, they just go, brilliant, cheers mate, take it, and have the better deck and still win in Fatigue. But if you wait for Benedictus after they've done the Togwaggle Azalina combo, they will then also have a Benedictus, at which they can shuffle your deck you shuffled into their deck and still probably win in Fatigue.
Already done thinking about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's... I don't know. But that's the whole thing. They just wouldn't do it, right?
What do you mean? You just wouldn't play Benedictus?
Whatever is better for the Druid, they would choose whether they togged or not.
Yeah.
Like, I always feel like, similar to what you said, they would always just say, well, it's my choice.
Yeah.
You can't force me. It's like when, you know...
You're not my real dad.
Yeah, a teenager shouts at his parents for the first time. I'm a big boy now, you can't make me. And they're like, yeah, we can. It's like, okay.
Play your Togwaggle stuff.
Yeah. And the, I just forgot the name of the card. The grassy dude, reduced...
Green Petal Florist, grassy dude. That's quite cool. He's got like little shades on as well.
Right, exactly.
Shields, I guess.
Yeah, so Azalina is now 0, so that's completely free form as to when Omega Zero wants to drop it down.
And Omega Zero is now completely out of the range of the Stormwind Knight combat. Oh, no, sorry. Okay. Wrong game.
We really locked into that game. We really focused. First time for him. Now we see the big play of the 1-5 singular spreading plague.
Yeah, I think this might just be setting up for a UI, because China is saying we're winning in Fatigue so easily already. We'll still be 5 cards ahead at that point. So let's make sure we have the answers we need. Because at the moment, their hand is not very good. Outside of the combo, which they do not want to play at any measure at this point. Sorry, I mean the full combo of Togwaggle Azalina. They just want to find more answers to their opponent's minion presence.
I wonder, after seeing double Shadow Visions, would you ever have just smashed out like Azalina that turn?
Oh, I think that's pretty risky, right?
Wow, yeah, but the triple Mind Blast, look at this is
lethal. Do you want triple Mind Blast?
Alex into triple Mind Blast, GG. Argue
Fair
with my
enough.
logic, Derek.
Yeah. Divine here. Anduin. Details.
We've still got 17 cards left.
Fair. I think setting
and
up...
most of them are priest cards anyway, so there's probably synergy.
Fine. Most of them are blooming scarabs. It's not priest cards.
There might be a cleric in there for your divine him.
I think overall, I like China trying to set up for it UI.
Oh, okay.
A tangled
Political
web.
answer there, Derek. I like
Thank
it.
you. In conclusion, I find that... And, I mean, on this turn, there is plenty of answers available to this board. Maybe Omega Zero wants his opponent to draw cards. I don't...
Double swipe the Twilight Drake?
Yeah, I don't think you want to do that because you're winning in fatigue anyway, so you don't want to give your opponent dense draw, if that makes sense. Like, you want them to draw slowly one at a time because that means their plays will likely be weaker. It delays the Anduin for as long as possible.
Yeah, it'll just limit the options given on any singular turn, right?
Yes,
Instead of saying,
that's a good
here's
way of looking at
everything
it.
you've got to play with right now, go, do what you want.
Yeah.
It's like, you can use a bit of this, and you can use a bit of this next turn.
Again, it's like parents giving out pocket money to a moving
Yeah.
teenager. Don't spend it all at once. Don't use all
You
your
can't
mind
make
blast at
me.
once. Cabal Shadow Priest is not a bad pickup at all. A way to get a little bit of chip damage through to that 68 health total that Omega Zero is rocking right now.
To be fair, you know, both Spreading Plagues are gone.
Yeah.
There are still 1/5 tokens, as you can see, one in the hand right now.
Still
But
MCT.
you are not concerned. I don't think you can be concerned
Yeah.
right now. You just go, get any value you can. You could even steal the 5/5 if you wanted with
That's
the
true.
Twilight Acolyte.
And then, yeah, that's probably better actually.
Because you get
then
the
you
kill
draw.
on 1/5.
Yeah. Well, I think you do this first because if you get Anduin, you go with that.
Yeah.
That's just the better card to play here. You want to get that as soon as you humanly can on the board. And have we seen... in the first series of the day, we had another Control Priest against Control Mage where Anduin was bottom 3, I think. It was the
Right.
third from bottom
Yeah, because
card.
wasn't Jaina on curve?
Jaina was on
curve.
curve, yeah. It wasn't even close. Like, Ukraine
yeah,
just
yeah.
destroyed Switzerland in that game. They never had a chance. We might be having another one of those games, sadly, which you hate to see because, as with pretty much every Control Priest versus Control deck, slow deck, it's always very death-oriented.
Let me change your mind.
Ooh, big burn there. Trying to feel that one.
Here
Minus
is
one Scarab.
Hunter Ace's master plan coming together. Dr. Boom himself would be proud, I'm sure, as he has stuck a pretty respectable board against all of Omega Zero's onslaught of removal.
My
However,
thoughts are plagued.
it's probably not going to last.
Swipe.
Swipe, 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 swipe.
Supposed to.
Wrath, like just to
Yeah.
even avoid tanking the damage
The funny
yourself.
thing is, like, imagine just all of those cards didn't exist.
Okay,
My thoughts are
We're going to
plagued.
wild places when you cast
right,
there.
okay, please take
Imagine
me on
those
your
cards
adventure.
were not those cards. All I'm saying is the board plus Alex Straza next turn, Hunter Aces put together a winnable plan when we were like,
Right.
yeah, you probably just lose this game.
Yeah.
You know,
He's done a good
actually
job.
done something,
Yeah, yeah.
which is impressive.
It's not.
It's not going to be enough, as you said,
All right,
but you can still pressure some with the Alex.
now it's my turn. Imagine Hearthstone was never invented, and they're playing tennis. Hunter Ace here has delivered a pretty lethal serve here over towards Omega Zero.
Lethal serve. But then we found out it was out.
Ah,
I'm terrible at tennis. Table tennis, I'm all about that. But actual tennis.
I refuse to play table tennis again after I played at Summer Champs, and I played against, who was it, Frozen and Race.
Oh, okay. I've never played Race, but I know Frozen's pretty good.
Frozen's
right?
really
Right.
good, yeah, and like Race as well. He's pretty sick
he
at
good?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Purple's good.
wiping the floor. I have not played with purple.
I played the long set versus Purple actually. The champs last year.
Oh, right.
Zalay is good, I believe. I've not played him, but he brags a lot.
Yeah, Frozen
pretty
was
sure
just
Zalay.
wiping the floor with everyone.
Oh,
To
really?
be honest, he was a proper crack
I'll
at the
take
game.
that. Frozen, if you're listening, I will crush you at table tennis. Aha.
As we finally see the Alex Straza coming down, this is the final gambit pretty much for Norway. If this does not work, the game's over because they have basically no minion presence left. Anduin is still in the deck, and even with 4 Mind Blasts that are going to be available over the course of the game, I just don't think it ever gets there.
Especially when there's just now a ferocious howl. It just feels unfair, doesn't it? It's like, I've done all this work, I've put in all this power, I've been knocked back 50 times.
Yeah.
Finally, I'm making a ferocious howl. Oh,
It could be even better than that. We could see Ferocious Howl Azalina double Divine Him on a single turn if that was wanted.
into double Mind Blast. Just because.
Just the salt in the wound.
Yeah, just be like.
Don't hero power.
Yeah.
That's thinking about it too much.
Yeah, that's the obvious play. Got to mix it up with the mind games a little bit.
But in terms of actually dealing with this Alexstrasza, I mean, I'm looking at
Death is
Swipe,
eternal.
Wrath, and then you have plenty of damage to deal with it then. Yeah, looks fine to
Pick
me.
and choose.
Clear off everything. You could even develop a little Scarabe if you want.
Karabe.
Yeah.
Now I
Norway still need to make some kind of a board presence, which takes the form of Primordial Drake, I guess, this turn. Why not?
Maybe, yeah, I was going to say, do you coin Gluttonous? Probably not, because coin's 2 damage.
Yeah, that's another ping with
it-
Mind Blast.
I just think we're getting to the point where there just factually isn't enough damage
I agree.
in the deck, but nah, it's only a few more turns. If we can sit here and cast Odd Warrior Mirrors, we can let Huntrace finish his priest game.
Yeah, this is just baby time. This is easy in comparison. So there is no way to actually deal with this Primordial Drake right
Imagine
now.
he just gets him for 32 and then triple Mind Blast to finish. Oh my god. That's a heroic Huntrace achievement there.
It would have to hit him for like 50 damage though with the hero powers as well, if not more.
Easy. We've not counted for the 4th Mind Blast yet, Dark.
Right, that's throwing off all my maths. Yeah.
Your brain's frazzled from the last game of that priest.
And, you know, I guess that China is not immeasurably far ahead on Fatigue at the moment. They're probably still winning in Fatigue, but if they start drawing with Ferocious Howls,
And there's
it's a little bit closer.
double him and
Yeah.
quad Mind Blast plus Anduin.
A lot of pings.
Eventually, if it's even in the deck, I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm not going to sit here and do all the masks. It's too intricate, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But there's a chance. It's probably higher than 0.
And
casters often like to say.
we don't need to figure out exactly what position all players are in here. It's just there very likely is not enough damage for Huntrace to get there. We've known that pretty much from the start. Even with a Geist here, another bottom 3 Anduin. It wasn't burned this game, was it? It was burned last game. The last priest
last
Anduin
game.
was burned. Yeah, just checking.
I hope so. We're all going crazy. We're going crazy together. Anduin just pops out of the druid's hand. Like, wait, what?
Surprise.
Yeah, how did that even happen? And then it's like, I'm not being on this team. It's losing.
This, you know, does mean that that was another card burn from the deck for Omega Zero, I believe, in the remaining Spellstone, which says, gives Omega Zero all the information he needs to know. He's just going to swap decks here. He's going to draw his card. Maybe next turn, stealing that Anduin from his opponent's deck.
Right, that would just be
Can you
slap
imagine?
in the face, wouldn't it?
There we go.
Oh.
Okay, finally.
For mainly Team Norway's sanity, they will not get their Anduin swapped. But now the 2 4-attack minions are very, very frustrating. You can kill one with the Geist, or just push. Do you just have to push and hope for trades? Or do you need
What do
every
you
single
do?
point of damage?
Like, what do you do on this turn?
But you have to Anduin hero power, right?
Well, you know that your deck is going to get swapped. Like, it's a pretty much 100% chance after your opponent played the second UI that they're going to go Togwaggle Azalina, which means you're going to be giving them 2 Divine Favors and 3 Mind Blasts, which means you kind of have to get trading or you're just going to die on board. Yeah. Yep, starting with the Wrath. I mean, Omega Zero should be able to map out pretty exactly what Huntrace's hand is, to be honest. I'd guess as many Mind Blasts as he could possibly choose. The Hymns, the Ooze, and whatever the remaining card is other than Mind Blast. I think it's 2 cards left in the deck. And now we could see pretty much perfect information available for China, as I think for Norway they're going to realize this is just lights out. The damage never ever gets there. They're losing in Fatigue by a fairly large margin, and they never get backboard.
Yeah. It's a shame we can't have the live video cams of the players, but we do have two very realistic portraits of both, as Hunter Ace does take the loss. Team China actually do take the win there with the Togwaggle Druid. It was always going to be an uphill climb for Team Norway, and there was a plan formed. It had a chance, but it wasn't good enough, as the game just went too steady, I feel like. The double nourish draws, for example, early on was insane. Even the branching pass, more draws, etc. Just get through the deck too quickly.
And this is why you don't see Control Priest on ladder pretty much at all. It's very, very rare, at least at the ranks I'm looking at, because there is too much Druid. Basically, any of the three major Druid decks in Togwaggle, Malagos, or Token Druid, all of which play Malfurion and the Armageddon cards, you're just not going to get there.
Going to be a little bit too tough, but let's move on and see what the next game is going to be between Norway and China. China's starting to fight back, and it is going to be rogue-on-rogue action, although not a mirror match.
It is not, and I think most people would agree that Zorkthar has got the bum end of the deal here, with him on the Quest Rogue, whilst Trunks is bringing the Odd Rogue, a little bit different for the most of the top 16 here, where Quest Rogue is generally agreed upon as the best deck because it destroys some decks. Just all the control decks you have a massively favourable matchup against, whereas apart from Aggro Mage, there's no really truly miserable matchups. And I'm sure Fino right now is in chat saying, Derek, you're a moron. Aggro Mage is unfavoured versus Quest Rogue. There's literally no matchup it loses.
Can't believe. Look, I'll draw the line at Aggro Mage. I will take that match. I'm just challenging people. Challenging like Frozen to table tennis. Fino to Aggro Mage versus Quest Rogue, whatever anyone wants at this point. We'll say just a small note, but Valera is in the list. But people have been very recently experimenting with lists without Valera.
I haven't seen that.
It's not super common. You won't see it on ladder. It'll just be the Valera list. But I think I've seen a couple of people with the lineups just not taking it. I believe it is the new hipster thing to do, but you know, it's about as far as my knowledge goes with these youngster things.
Yeah, I think in this matchup you'd probably rather not have Valera because it's just a little bit too late game focused. Right. It can obviously do disgusting things. We know that it can be powerful when it works, but getting to turn 9 is the difficult bit.
And I think that's it. I think the decision is how much of a control buster do you want the deck to be? Because versus control,
you kind of need Valera.
You have Valera because it makes you almost unable to lose as long as everything doesn't go completely disastrously and it's like bottom card. Whereas versus aggro or even middle in range, then do you get to turn 9? If you've got to turn 9, have you already just won? You know, those questions you kind of ask yourself, and is an other option being used a little bit better? I don't know. I'm not Quest Rogue expert, but let's get into this game. It's going to be the Odd versus the Quest, who's going to be the winner in the end.
And speaking of Quest Rogue experts, I don't think you could choose four more well-equipped players than Team Norway. They are all very proficient Quest Rogue players. I imagine they'll be very much on the same page. That was, in Zorkthar's opinion, one of their biggest assets as a team was that they're just so in sync. Some teams are disagreeing all the time because they, feel their line's better. They're just trying to get the best possible solution. Whereas he was saying for Team Norway, usually they're just on the same page. They have the same style of Hearthstone. They've played together for so long that they usually end up with the same opinion.
I was going to say they are regular practice partners outside of HGG anyway. They prep for tournaments together. So it's the difference of throwing 4 people together that know each other, play against each other, played a bit, versus throwing 4 practice partners together, because then that's just insane. But let's see how it plays out here. We see honestly one of my favorite cards, or one of the most hype cards for me. No, it's not. Caverns Below. Myra's Unstable Element.
Oh, yes.
But whenever it gets played, I'm hyped, because I'm like, right, what have they got to work with, and how do they finish this game with it? It's such a cool card. I like it a lot.
It just becomes like a Dr. Boom lethal puzzle then, doesn't it?
Right,
because you have like 2, maybe 3 turns to make it work. Can you kill your opponent, or are you just dead?
Yeah, it's really cool. And also the decisions on the opponent's end of, depending on how late it's played, well, you don't see what's burnt.
Yeah, what do you play?
So you need to be like, well, I've got 10 cards.
Yeah.
Which combos completely ruin me?
Yeah.
Which are unlikely to have? Which are likely to have? So on, so on. It gets quite difficult.
But at least immediately for Trunks, while he did miss the 1-drop, which is pretty miserable against an Quest Rogue, you want to be going as quick as possible. It looks like one of these medium-sized threats could just be getting there for China in the form of Hench Clan Thug or Vicious Fledgling. After the South Sea deckhand comes down, maybe the answer for Norway just isn't there. Yeah,
this Elven Minstrel, although can break games in terms of just drawing more and more threats to bounce or to just get in the way, versus a heavy minion aggro opening such as this, you kind of need someone to just kill one of these. And I think the issue is the 1-2 punch with these 3 drops, right?
Yeah.
The first one's come down. We can see it's just dead. No problem. Oh, then there's a hench clan. How does that one die?
I think, though, if Norway decide to just play out the Brewmaster on the with the remaining 2 mana after they kill off the...
It'd be a pretty heads-up play to me.
Yeah, after they kill off the Fledgling, it's like... It's obviously very weak to the dagger, but your opponent just coined a 3-drop. Does that indicate they have another one? They wouldn't want to go for it if they were just going to follow up with dagger.
It's different in certain matchups as well because, for example, the answer would be the same whether you coined it or not to Zokthar with this deck. If they have the answer, they have the answer. It's the same, right? Doesn't matter. But by coining it out...
I also want to point out that Norway kept the deckhand off the mulligan. So they came into this game knowing they'd need an answer to one of these power 3 drops, and they were rewarded for that play pretty heavily.
It's one thing that is very straightforward about playing against the Odd Rogue. Can you kill a 3 or 4 health minion on 3? Yes?
Yeah.
Then you do.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how there's step 1 of winning the game. And yeah, they did play the Brewmaster. Pretty sick play, to be honest. Not one that most people would do.
I really like this play. Yeah, it just seems weird because you think Quest Rogue bounce effects. That's why it's in the deck, is to complete the quest. But I think this shows a really good understanding of modern Quest Rogue, which is to say, you are trying to delay the game. That's what your early turns do. You stall, you stall, you stall, and then eventually you play Sonya, and then you complete the quest with that. That's the majority of the time, at least in my experience, I find Sonya is the quest activator. It's not bounce effect.
You're not normally going for a turn 3 to 4 quest like the old days,
exactly.
right? You're not like, okay, right, you know, firefly, go, 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 go.
Yeah.
You know, you're more just like, right, let's play a solid game. We will get there.
Because we can see, even though the answer was there for Trunks, obviously, with the form of the dagger, Zokthar knew this panda was just going to be dying straight away. The fact that it stopped the Hench Clan Thug from being developed that turn is massive.
One thing that is pretty huge here as well, and honestly, one of the cards that frustrates me the most when I'm playing against Odd Rogue is Deadly Poison.
Oh, yeah.
That combined with the extra power from the dagger,
it's nuts.
1 mana, deal 4 twice. Sick. And they always combo it with something. I'm like, the swing that one card creates is absurd in most decks. Oof, scary.
It's like a 3 mana 4/2 weapon. Take note, warrior card designers, by the way.
I miss Pirate Warrior.
We all do, really.
Our deck was glorious.
So a bit of a tough turn here for China where, I mean, like you said, the obvious play is Deadly Poison Hench Clan Thug because it clears off the board, develops a threat. It's not perfect because you are using a Deadly Poison just on 1 minion here. But if you do leave this up and you're met with, say, Sonya on that turn, that's pretty miserable. That's a big punish because they kill it off. And they would then also be able to start getting the quest completed with the lifesteal. Wow.
Good call. We're on it today.
We are on the
First Onyxia brawls, now Sonya draws. I will say as well, like Tar Creeper feels good, but it was too slow. It just doesn't get enough done without Cold Bloods or anything to buff it. It wasn't enough. I'm a huge fan of that card, but yeah. Especially the other way around. If it was the Quest Rogue Star Creeper, then suddenly you could talk.
As we see the classic Tempo Minstrel, a 5 mana 3/2 essentially. Not the strongest card, I would imagine, in Hearthstone.
Get beaten by what, 1 mana worth of play because it's half the dagger.
But again, it forces 2 mana from your opponent. It's obviously a miserable play for Zokthar. This is the last thing you want to do. But your opponent now can't go for Giggling Inventor, or they can't go for Fungalmancer, I guess, but they only have 1 minion on the board. Basically, it limits their turn, which is great. You just want to slow them down as much as possible, because now you've got Sonya. There's your win con.
Okay. Do you think there's enough wiggle room here to go Novice Engineer Minstrel, then Vanish?
So what happens worst case? You are met with Fungalmancer Cold Blood, which would be 6, 8, 9, 13, 17 damage, I think.
Right.
So worst case scenario that I can think of, you're alive.
Such a weird way to phrase that. Worst case scenario, you're alive. Okay. But yeah, I think a game gone how this has with such a terrible opening draw, although played very well, you need to take a couple of risks like this and just say, look, if you put me under that much pressure, fine. But I do have Vanish. And now, look at this. Prep Vanish, and there's 2 Giggling Inventors all of a sudden. Hello.
And we can clearly see, while I was describing the worst case scenario, that's not actuality. Trunks does not have anywhere near that good of a punish for this low kind of answering play. Zorkthor has not dealt with the board here. He's just developing his own threats. So now Trunks has to answer these minions to play around Sonya and prep Vanish. It's not great.
Yeah, it's just going to go Vile Spine, I imagine. Just to push the most damage possible.
Yeah, he'll be tempted to play out a Blood Knight, I'd imagine. To re-equip the dagger, but yeah, in the end, going as wide as possible.
Kind of the same. You've got the mana to do similar anyway. And you've just seen your opponent draw minions, so why not hold the Blood Knights?
Ooh, so if we do see Giggling Inventor on this turn, Blood Knight into weapon would be lethal. Would it be lethal? Dagger +2, then that's 11 damage it's pushing, I think.
Yes.
After the weapon and deckhand go into the Annoyatrons. And at that point, you've probably just won because you get your opponent down to 2.
But then there's just Vanish.
They would have to
Giggling,
go prep, Vanish, Giggling. Oh, man.
But then the Blood Knight comes down again.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, what?
And then you vanish again.
It's a vicious cycle. By then you played 18 Giggling Inventors. Well, the trick there is, though, if they don't kill the 2-1, and then you just play Sonya.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
They would have to do that. That's true.
It's kind of, so suddenly the numbers don't quite add up, do they?
I think even though we've mapped it out, even if there wasn't a Blood Knight, this isn't really what you want to be doing as Norway. You want to go prep Vanish Giggling on the same turn, then go Sonya and just win the game. Because once you're going Sonya with a Giggling on board, that is a very spicy play.
This is kind of what we were talking about earlier, weren't we? It's like, we'll look at Valera right now as a card. Well,
that'd be pretty good here.
It would be good if you get there.
Yes.
You know, but like in terms of getting there, you almost die.
Yeah,
Like,
if it had been in hand, that would be awful. Yeah.
Starting with a dagger, although it feels weird to not develop as many minions, it's 4 damage over 2 turns for 2 mana. The value is insane.
Yeah, what were the alternatives? Thug, Tar Creeper, Diamol? I guess that's a little bit slow. Very vulnerable to a second Vanish. God forbid.
Also, this sets up a nice deckhand for extra push next turn.
Yeah.
Potential cold blood draws.
I wasn't convinced this was the way to go, but considering how much damage you push through, I think setting up 2-turn lethal is very important. Which I believe they do.
Also, there's 3, 6, 7, 2, 1. They could draw. China could draw 4 goes at cold blood if they just Myra's next turn, even with a big hand. It's true. Because if you just say whether they need it or not, it's a different question. But Myra's doesn't always have to be an 8 to 9 card draw. It can be a 4 card draw if you just need it to win the game, right?
I imagine Cold Blood is not going to be that out for lethal because I struggle to envisage a world where Prep Vanish Giggling is not the play on this turn.
Yeah, I mean, looks fine to me, mate.
Actually, with the deckhand being picked up, maybe that's the way you go with Sonya to try and complete the quest, and then next turn go Giggling Prep Quest.
So Sonya, deckhand. I shouldn't say that quickly that many times.
You probably shouldn't.
No. Playing that back in my head wasn't the best idea.
In the end, though, saying, while that was something to consider, giving them Leroy outs, why would I do that? Want to set up taunts.
And I really like the deckhand kill, because obviously you don't want to vanish, charge damage back to... Again!
Yeah.
Like, keep hitting me with this.
They want to protect their health total. They also want to protect the 2-1. Like you said, Giggling Inventor sticking on the board with a Sonya in hand, he's massive.
It's like, enjoy your Blood Knights, but funnily enough, Blood Knights don't stack. Like, you play the first one, the second one does nothing. Like, most of the time, of course. So there is the SI, or the Vile Spine. Most importantly, there is not both. So there's no extra damage being pushed through the face. I wonder... No, it doesn't matter. I'm being stupid. That's like, do you like aim the SI damage?
Whatever
like, where do you put it?
You kill off the Giggling. I think you have to. even though you have another Blood Knight, things just get so messy so quickly if you leave that up. You have so much damage anyway. So I think SI7 Agent Dagger, fine.
There's still deckhand as well, we can see. Suddenly, Sonya giggling, deckhand. You know, like you can get multiple things done right there. We see the respect.
This is fine. Like either SI7 Agent or Dagger.
Ooh.
You obviously couldn't attack with the Dagger. But... So no ability to go Sonya and then sacrifice your giggling on board because China denied that play very astutely.
You can giggling Brewmaster though.
It's true. That is true. Would that then be lethal?
So you'd need, there still needs to be 3 attacks. There are 3 attacks on board. And the SI would cover the 3rd attack for the 9/9 tip face.
Yeah, so I believe that
would be lethal.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else.
There's anything else they can do. If they were to go Giggling Inventor, Deckhand, and then kill off the Valspine with everything they've got, that sacrifices one of their taunts, so that would still not get the job done.
And they don't have, especially with the prep used now, they don't have the mana to pop the quest.
So I guess the play to survive is Sonya sacrifice off your Annoyatron.
Oh, replay.
And then replay the one mana. Yeah.
Drink with me, friend.
Oh, no, that's the same, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because the Blood Knight still eats the shield. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
I was like going, Derek's better than me at this deck. What have I missed, stupidly?
Quest break messes with your mind. I was just trying to find any way they could survive.
Well, what's worse is there normally is a way they could survive, because it's Quest Rogue. That looks like lethal to me if I have added numbers up correctly in my brain. 3-4 getting through, but look at that though. It took both Blood Knights to get through. The second one wasn't around, well, that game continues, and then suddenly Sonya plus quests and things, and then maybe death, maybe surviving, we don't know. But that's the power of Blood Knights. You might think, why are people playing these terrible cards?
There you go.
That's why.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And it wasn't even just the Blood Knights that needed to be there. If there was no way to kill off the Giggling Inventor on board, that would have spiraled out of control because it would have been Sonya, kill off your own Giggling, and then summon 2 more Annoyatrons, which when you have like 4 or 5 in play, it doesn't matter if they got a Blood Knight. You're going to be completing the quest sometime soon, and Sonya just does her magic. And
also just base number of attacks makes it more and more difficult to get through, right? Which is what the Divine Shields are for in the first place. But that is even now. China have fought back and evened it up versus Norway 2-2. We're going to take a quick break while we set up the next game, so don't go anywhere, guys. It's the final one. Who's going to make it to BlizzCon? Find out after this. Welcome back, everyone. We've got China versus Norway about to finish up one more game to decide who is going to BlizzCon and, of course, going to the Hearthstone Global Games Finals. But before we do that, just want to give you a reminder. I'm sure you're aware if you're in Twitch chat and seeing everything pop up on the side, but we do have cheers enabled now for Global Games, and it's a pretty big deal. If you cheer, you can see now on the screen what you can unlock. You can get packs, you can get card backs, you can get emotes for Twitch chat. So far, we've had 17.8 million bits have been cheered. That's absolutely amazing. And very, very importantly, Derek, the players get a portion of the revenue depending on which country you cheer for. So obviously, United States get a portion of the cheers for them. 9.1 million in the United States. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and obviously it turns out the players are in favor of this new initiative, and it is just a great way to show your support for the teams and get yourself some pretty cool stuff. You just get a whole bunch of packs, especially with the community rewards being reached with overall amount of bits being cheered in this new idea. You can also just get yourself some very cool emotes. I'm personally a fan of the Leroy Jenkins one. I've been using that a lot.
I like the 2 concede.
That's a very good
I imagine people will be spamming that one quite a lot. But yeah, it's super nice for the players. It just shows overall support. And as I said, they get a portion of the money. And also it's just cool to show in chat, you know, who you're supporting in global games. And even if it's your own country that you live in, team is knocked out, there's nothing stopping you supporting someone else. Look up football. It's pretty much what we all have to do at the moment. Yeah, it's not coming home, guys. So let's check out what the last game is going to be now as we go straight into it. It's going to be an odd Paladin mirror. And most importantly, I feel the builds are going to have a high impact on this game, Derek.
Yeah, we've had a little look at the lists on the break, and it seems to me like Norway have a deck that's a little bit more tech towards the mirror. They've got more one-drops in their deck. They are running, I believe, double Glowtron, double Diamol, both of which are fantastic in this matchup. Whereas Trunks is running one Glowtron, an Acarus Veteran, which is not good because it only has 1 health. They're running a Divine Favor, which is miserable in this matchup. You just don't want to be playing that because you're going to have probably equal cards to your opponent. So if Norway can find themselves a half-decent starting hand, like in their opinion, double Corridor Creeper, they should be in a pretty good spot, but they do end up with 777.
Yeah, it's weird because it's not that bad you know, with the double Corridor Creeper. I will say that if you're not familiar with this mirror match, it is normally just a vicious and filthy battle for the board.
Oh, yeah.
Constantly. You will never see players ignore trades and go face, or unless it's lethal.
Yeah.
Like, you will never see it. It's going to be absolutely savage. And kicking it off, Trunks does have the option of a one-drop coin, one-drop. And I wonder if you feel like that's way more valuable now that you've seen your opponent has passed on turn 1.
Yeah, I think you're probably still quite hesitant to do that because with the way it works out, the vast majority of the time is you go double one-drop, they go hero power, your veteran just dies. The extra attack doesn't make any difference on the Glowtron against the 1-1s. So I think you're probably just playing a 2-1 there that dies to one of your opponent's tokens. So I agree with holding it back here.
And that's the difference, isn't it? Because say that hand was on Hunter Ace's side of the board, well, it'll be 2 1-3s, and then suddenly you might consider it more to be able to just, you know, beat down these hero powers straight away and then some. So it really is, although this is a mirror match in archetype, the builds are actually heavily impactful here. We're just not seeing it yet because Hunter Ace can't draw a one-drop.
Yeah, very immediately seeing why Acarus Veteran is not a card for the mirror. You want Diamol, you want Glowtron, because it just equals 3 trades with 1-1s. It's like quite a simple matchup to just maths out. You can just realize whoever has the best value trades, whoever ends up with the most stuff on board when the level up Fungalmancer turns rock around, will be winning.
And I do feel that in general, the game comes down to a Fungalmancer a little bit more than a level up because the trades happen so often that there aren't that many minions, whereas a Fungalmancer can land on any minion that's left on the board and not just a dude. So I think the Fungalmancer being on Hunter Ace's side is pretty big here because there's a chance that the turn 5 could be Corridor, Fungal, depending on how these trades work out.
Yeah, which would be truly disgusting, obviously. Still no one-drops at all for Norway, though. Imagine if they'd had one-drop on 1, or even just one-drop here to go with the hero power. They would be so far in the lead.
It's a little bit nutty, though, because that turn isn't too crazy that I talked about if there was a hero power this turn from Hunter Ace, or even next turn. There are 4 minions on board, 5 with this Void Ripper. If one more minion dies, well, that's it, Corridor Creeper 0, and that's going to be an absolutely insane turn.
Next turn, hero power, double Corridor Creeper. Even if they just go to 1, that's fine. You can just go double Creeper with a hero power, which probably pulls you miles into the lead. That may just happen.
Suddenly, raid leader coin veteran to make 1 trade into the 3/3.
Or we could see veteran double trade, hero power coin creeper, because it would bring that down to 1. Or raid leader double trade coin creeper. You'd probably go for the veteran.
Reporting for duty.
However, Hunter Ace has kept 2 cards in his starting hand.
And not played them yet.
And not played either.
You'd be
what does that tell you? Yeah, I think you realize pretty quickly if it's not one-drops, it's probably Corridor Creeper, which I imagine is what China will be discussing right now. Because I think their first thought was, let's trade and play our Creeper. But then they give their opponent 2 Creepers, potentially.
And the thing is as well, there we go. And this is the difference, right? Hunter Ace and Team Norway decided to play Void Ripper. They could have just hero powered and had 2 minions instead of 1 that turn, which then helps with these numbers. They didn't. So now Hunter Ace can only make 1 trade and kill 1 minion. And it's a pretty big deal when you look at these Corridor Creepers.
And I think this is just a lovely play from China. You were saying that you... yes, just going face. You said that you never do this, you never just go face because you take value trades in this matchup. This shows what a deviation from the general game plan this play was, because it allowed Norway to dictate the trades, because I believe that China got the read that it was double Corridor Creeper, or at the very least 1 Corridor Creeper.
Yeah, and you always want yours down first, right? Because then you can start making those big trades, making those big plays.
Yeah.
It was huge, and the best thing is Norway could have played differently and hero powered.
Yep.
Because then they could have traded 4 minions that turn, because they're all 1/1s.
Yeah.
And played double corridor creeper.
That's fair.
Plus hero power.
Yeah, it did work out pretty miserably for Norway, as we can see. This is also working out pretty miserably for Norway. They do have the ability to now go for their trump turn of going corridor creeper, Funglomancer. Answer that. However, China can do that fairly easily.
However,
yeah, just ignoring it and pushing everything face, because they are going aggressive now, big time.
I don't see any better plays than that, to be honest.
Yeah, we could see... Like, double corridor creeper always happens. That's just the first
You could
thing
just go
do
wide with Raid Leader hero power. Or
Raid
even Daimol hero power.
You want to do Raid Leader as a surprise when you already have a board. It's not good when just played into an existing board. As this is really the last vestige of hope for Norway, but they are met with a second level up for China.
We were talking. Norway. Oh, they've got all the best 1-drops. You've got to draw them.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you don't draw 1-drop.
This is what happens when you keep double 7-drop off the mulligan. Like,
and then, like an idiot, draw another 7-drop.
I definitely agree with keeping 1. It's really, really good in this matchup. I probably agree with keeping 2, because usually it works out fine, but it couldn't have really worked out much worse for Norway.
For me, if you're keeping them, you play into them.
Yes.
I don't know why the Void Ripper was needed.
Well, it just made the trades good. Like, it was a,
right, but
it was
you could just
3
traded
that
the
dealt
1/1s away.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it would have got you the worms out a whole turn earlier. And
it was a much weaker play onto the board. Like, they would have fallen even further behind, because 2 1/1s gets value traded by the Glowtron that was on board, and then they start to pull ahead even further. You don't have any reactive answers at all.
Tough one. We obviously have hindsight, so it's the hands very different.
Yeah.
And now I don't know. Too little, too late. They were lost in the deck.
Don't think there's anything that Norway can do here.
Wow.
To clear off is just, well, we can see at least definitely lethal, even if it's not represented on board. They have no taunts that they can play.
There's no weapon to even just kill another dude, so we can see the second level up won't be as powerful.
Yeah.
It's just too much. There's a weapon as well. So I think no matter which way you slice it, that Raid Leader is pretty protected, which means that's just 4 extra, well 6 if you count the Raid Leader itself, extra damage. You can't even kill the Raid Leader. You know.
And this was a big risk made by Norway, and despite the fact that they got 777, it did not pay out for them.
Been waiting all game for that one. Yeah, that was it was good though. I'm sure Sol's chuckling to himself at home,
saying, "Thank God it's not me."
Yeah.
About either of us, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say it's just a neutral comment, but looks like that is going to be game, and it's going to be China. They're going to BlizzCon, booking their spot straight away, no messing about, and I will say some very, very heads-up play from them. I did like the pause and going, wait, we don't need to trade into that.
Yeah.
Let's just go face, and it really did change everything, because it meant Huntrace and Team Norway couldn't get the worms out fast enough.
Yeah, that turn for both players was the key on either side, because it was playing the Void Ripper instead of the hero power, which, again, you know, we could argue about that until the cows come home. But then I think on the other side for Team China, it was just a really heads-up spot. They kept 2 cards. They haven't played either of them until now. What on earth could they be?
Turn 1.
Yeah.
Didn't have a 1-drop for turn 3.
Double creeper. It has to be.
And let's take a look at how the series played out overall. We've had some long ones today, going to Game 5, I think every game, or at least mine have.
Yep,
I think yours went as well. So we see a great start for Team Norway. They did run into some bumpy matchups with the Druid and the Rogue, you would say, and then the Paladin, in which, through deck building, was favoured for Team Norway. They didn't get the draws, whether that was down to the dodgy mulligan or not. It just didn't happen for them, and China went 3-0 after 2 losses. Pretty good for those guys.
Yeah, I think on average it should have worked out better for Huntrace than it did there. So commiserations that it didn't work there, but it was a risky play that they went for, and I'm sure people are arguing, you know, it wasn't risky, it was just the correct way to go for. But even then, as we take a look at some of the matches that we had here in this series, while they had a chance in that one, there were some series that were just over before, or some games that were just over before they even begun, really.
Yeah, they really were. Norway just started things off with the Death Rattle Hunter and really just got off to such a flying start that all the defense in the world was not enough for Team China as they scrambled, they scrambled, they scrambled, but then a Katharina off the top, pulling out King Crush, of course, was enough to get it done.
Egg Hunter, they scrambled. I like it. Very, very clever.
Yeah. Completely on purpose.
On purpose, I'm sure.
Look, I am just naturally gifted. I don't think about these things, Derek. They just come to me in a dream. Can see the King Crush going down there, and like you said, Norway were out and needed something good. A couple more whiffs and maybe, but it wasn't meant to be. And there's the. This is where I punched the desk quite heavily, as the brawl did work out where Onyxia happened, and this was probably one of the most exciting games of the day for me.
This was a very, very just interesting game. This was so different to any other style of game I think we've seen here at the Global Games, because it was just a very simple game plan from both sides right for the start. Both players knew what they were trying to do, and it turned out that Coldline just did that better. His ability to set up a taunt every single turn, remove every single minion, led him through to a victory against a very stiff deck that doesn't have any flexibility in its game plan.
Yeah, it did turn into quite a dangerous dance, and then this one a little bit more straightforward as Hunter Ace just could not get there. Look at that number, that 47 in the top plus the 15 from the health. Too much to handle, and China took a relatively straightforward win, I'd call that one.
Yeah, that one was just very easy. There was nothing Hunter Ace could have done. We admired his fortitude setting up a board that maybe could have got there if the removal tools weren't there for Trunks, but with 2 UIs being played, it was pretty much always over. As with this game, not 2 UIs, but 2 Blood Knights this time to easily deal with the Giggling Inventors, leading to an equalization of the score.
Yep, Noah would be proud, everything going 2 by 2, getting the job done. And then we do continue there into this Paladin Mirror, which on paper was favored for Norway, but no one drop on 1. No one drop to fill out the curve on 3, and then the questionable turn 3 plays onwards, just having that good push from China, and then everything happening 1 turn too late for Norway meant that China decided to take it.
And maybe for Norway, keeping double Corridor Creeper is a more going second play, like a better to do when you're on the coin, because getting a 1-drop is not quite so crucial. Like, it's still good. You want to get a 1-drop, obviously, to fight for board. But as we saw from Norway, missing that 1-drop when you're going first, it just has rippling consequences that led to a victory all the way, led to a loss, sorry, right till the end.
Yeah, let's take an update on the bracket and see where we are, keeping track of all these groups and the progression of the Hearthstone Global Games as we are nearing its end. We do see China taking the win at the top there and going through in the winners portion. So the winner of Group D is China. They've got the spot BlizzCon. And then we are going to see Norway versus Ukraine, a rematch in which you said Norway just kind of beat Ukraine aside in terms of just stronger play overall. They're going to be having a rematch to decide who the second team from Group D is that's going to make it to BlizzCon and the finals.
And this is what Ukraine wanted. Old Boy was saying in his interview, he wants another shot at Norway because he admitted himself they made 2 major mistakes in that series, which could have changed it around. Because Zorkthar was saying before that series, they were like 20% to win. They were so far behind after the matchups had worked themselves out. So I think this way for Norway, they should be a little bit more favoured because they feel like their matchups are decent against the Ukraine. And if they keep up with this decent play, I think they're still in with a very good shot at that ticket to BlizzCon.
Okay, well, we've still got plenty more matches to come, so don't go anywhere, guys. We've got more Hearthstone coming right up. See you in a bit.